time we can see this desolating principle, the way it works, so that you can understand when you see a replay of things of that nature around the world. I'd like us to turn to Genesis chapter 11. Genesis chapter 11. We're going to move quickly, very fast, and wrap some of these things up they can be expounded much later in details. Now, if you look at Genesis 11, the first 3 verses of Genesis 11, because some things the Lord gives a prophetic insight to be able to understand the times. And I only give the prophetic background. Of course, for over 3 decades, I've put on the agenda for our reflection a message simply called Collapse of Civilization. Very expressly in 1990, the Lord said to me, I heard a voice say to me. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men have built. And that will continue until the final fall and collapse of civilization. Out of the ruins of that fall will come that which will endure to eternal ages. So use that as the model to understand what's going on in the world. Now, so I'm going to read it. So this Genesis began to take on a new meaning to me from that time. It says, and the whole earth was of one language and one speech. So whenever you see the world gravitating towards one language and one speech, that's not to suggest that, lucky you, the whole world will start speaking Ibibio or Anam. French will not even qualify. English will not qualify. One language, one speech, one system. Exactly, one order. The whole earth was of one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. These are the building blocks of that order, that civilization. And they had brick for stone and slime had they for mortar. They didn't use divine order. Lively stones built into a spiritual house. Brick for stones, slime for mortar. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. Let's attain the heavenly life without the heavenly pathway. Let's get to millennial glory without the cross. Let's get to heaven and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men made. In summary, the Lord confounded that order. It was a failed scheme. It ended. Why am I saying what I'm saying here? Very recently, the Lord spoke to me. I was in Sierra Leone. I'm sure there was a meeting, conference going on here. And the things the Lord said, just a minute, let me. Basically, he said, we need to prepare for the coming reign of Lucifer. And much particularly, our call to resist it. Now, we are all aware about the coming of the Lord. What's going to happen before that is the coming reign of Lucifer. The attempt of Lucifer to reign. That's the burden. I'm still 4 minutes, but I have to say it here. I'm still researching into it. Not whether it is true. That's exactly true from the Lord. But I'm trying to understand what's going on in the social scene that tells me that Lucifer is indeed setting up his apparatus to reign. Because it's a clear word from the Lord. I reflected, it was so straight. Yes, we know. Prepare for the coming reign of Lucifer. Now, these scriptures will help you to understand how Lucifer organizes his kingdom, as we read here. But the interesting thing is this. It will not be established. As the Lord has said. That just as he came down in the Tower of Babel, that he will continue to come down until the final fall and collapse of that which is man on the earth. It's called the collapse of civilization. It is something we have to get ready for. We may hear it. It may sound anyhow you want to sound. Remember my second son asked me, now you've been saying these things before he left abroad. He said, do you mean that the earth will now become like 17th century? I said, worse than that. See, then it's serious. It's extremely serious. Collapse of civilization. Of course, somebody says, oh, you're a product of civilization. You're a professor. How are you talking about the collapse of civilization? Well, there was a Moses who was a product of Egypt, trained in all the art of Egypt, and he had a word to end Egypt. So it has nothing to do with that. We're in the world, not of the world. But how prepared are we for huge changes in our world? Have you ever heard of the World Economic Forum? This group of guys in Davos, they dictate the pace of what goes on earth. They started from the Club of Rome. You know, I don't want to go into all those details they are all record. I had books in of course, I'm in such a field that should understand those kind of things. They started from the Club of Rome showing the predicament of the earth and the things that will come, population explosion. That's why the climate change, population, this and that, biodiversity extinction, things are happening. And they are talking about the Great Reset. That means the world we know it should be reset. The way we know life. They are deadly serious. Every year they meet in Davos. They all come with their private jets and all that. And all the who is who. The last one, about 34 heads of states were there. A group of guys. You know, Prince Charles, now King Charles, all of them. All the world. And they set the agenda. And they use sustainable development. Climate change. They use all these things. We understand the science, but for them, they want to reset the earth. Now, what you call the COVID mandate, it was an attempt by the reset. In fact, it was a plan. They were to use public health to reset, but they didn't get it right. Now they are saying that the next one, they will have a more serious lockdown. They are preparing. Don't joke. It's not fairy tales. Google. Reset is what they're talking about. And they are into several things to reset. Not just them. There are so many other councils all working together. There's a drive presently towards the cashless and digital currency. Spearheaded by USA, Britain, the World Economic Forum, because they have to control the financial system of the world. The world must be of one language and one speech. There's a move towards digital facial identification and vaccine passports because they're going to control the public health systems. Right now, there's what they call a pandemic treaty. The World Health Organization has been given, by that treaty, the World Health Organization, in the case of any pandemic, can interfere with any nation They have a mandate higher than any country. So the WHO will take over and manage the pandemic in any country. And it's a treaty that the African heads of states had a hesitation to sign. They said, well, they want a few things clear about it. But eventually, they signed it. Europe, US, they are all pushing for the pandemic treaty that empowers WHO. And may I let you know that the United Nations, called United Nations, is a satanic instrument of control in the last day. A young man who had no idea of so, but I knew from my learning and study, who had no idea. One of the young men in Calabar who went to Europe, he went to Germany to read, and one day he called me and said he had a dream. He wrote it, he narrated it in, and that he saw these armies gathered with horses, fierce, surrounding the earth. That they had such weapons that can yank off the heart of people. It was so terrifying. And then he was told, these are the League of Nations. So when he came out of it, he said, what is League of Nations? So he decided to Google. And he found out that, of course, after the First World War, what was the Council of Europe? Not Google now, I know this by my knowledge. What was the Council of Europe became League of Nations, hoping to create world peace. But a few years after, there was the Second World War, and many more people died. The League of Nations metamorphosed into the United Nations. The agenda is what? War, peace, and security. The world shall say peace and safety. But suddenly, destruction comes as travail upon a woman. Right now, the UN is being empowered to take over countries' management of health systems. What is that? So you can see the move towards one public health system, the move towards one financial system, then ecumenism and the control of the religious system. Of course, Vatican drives that. There are they brought all the religious, Christian, the who is who. The who is who. Even the who is who in the world. As at 2017, the who is who in Christianity. Kenneth Copeland and all his group officially apologized to Vatican for the reformation of Martin Luther. Because 2017 was the... I watched the video. I shared it with him. I said, this is... He visited my house. He watched it and sank in his chair because you wouldn't believe that ministers, charismatic ministers, they were all jet owners. And there was a cardinal there with them. And then the Pope spoke via a teleconference. And what was he to say? That 500 years ago, what we call Reformation, Martin Luther, was the greatest church split. That should not have happened. And they were apologizing for reformation. On our behalf, they have said we are loyal to you. That's the world coming. That's where we are. So who are you? When the charismatic, the Pentecostal, the other one, Brother Adeboye, whom we all regard and respect, I watched a video clip of him. He said, the reason why he was born on earth, the reason why he was born is to unite all religions. To unite all religions. And there were present representatives of the various religious groups. And he made that statement. So ecumenism and the control of the religious system, a move towards world religion. And then what we call the new economic, the liberal world order. That's the way they call it in Sweden. The present liberal order that came after the Second World War, where, particularly after that, there were two rival powers: the Soviet Union, United States, and then the Soviet Union collapsed, and then America assumed the leadership of the world. The new international order, a world led by Anglo-America. Britain, United States, taking all Europe along with it. And it is that liberal order that have decided that Russia should be destroyed militarily and economically. And in case you don't know, in case you don't know, Russia, I'm not an advocate of Russia, but I understand the history. Russia is the only developed country resisting the liberal worldview. Officially resisting it and saying they are not going to be a part of that. There is no way the Antichrist can fully set up his kingdom with a strong Russia. It has to be degraded. So this thing you call Ukraine and so on was a provocation of Russia. They constantly provoked Russia because there is a theory known to all of them called the Monroe's Doctrine. The Monroe's Doctrine, Monroe was an American president who said that there should be no major power in your sphere of influence. That means America will not tolerate any major power in its sphere of influence. That means don't come and establish anything near Cuba or Mexico, or we will get you out. This is our sphere of influence. Even Latin America is said to be America's sphere of influence. Because why? They are a great power. So, should Russia not have a sphere of influence? Why will you get NATO into the borders of Russia? The country with the longest border with Russia, so that you can set up all the missiles facing Moscow. And Russia should just sit waiting for you. And Russia has been warning for 15 years. Don't come. We can even join NATO. We can join EU. They said, no, you are too big to join EU. We can join NATO. No. And they kept pushing, taking various countries, took Poland, took Estonia, and all the breakaways, taking them and wanting to plant in Ukraine. Russia said, enough is enough. We can't wait until you bring your missiles to destroy us. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. They knew it was going to happen. They knew Russia would react. But they feel that they will waste. On whose blood? Ukrainian blood. We are going to fight Russia, Biden says, to the last Ukrainian. Why not fight Russia to the last American? No, to the last Ukrainian. An army. So understand the thing going on. There is a build-up of forces around the world. Control of military system. Control of power system. And the reason for that control is against the Christ. Against faith. Because you are not supposed to be believing any other thing different from what they want you to believe. The media, the big media, they are saying the same thing. The big pharmaceutical industries are saying what they are saying. The military industrial complex are making money by wars. It's all building for control. But only Christians are the cheerleaders. Hey, what's wrong? Yo, I mean, Russia says just talking what they don't know. Understand what's going on in your world. Awake. Understand that there is a build-up of forces to build a Babel that will dictate faith and conscience, will dictate what you should believe. Such that if you deny certain things that you should believe, they cut you off of the system. That's why they must control the world system. They demonstrated it by cutting Russia from the SWIFT code. Cut from SWIFT. Russia said we would have known better. We would have created alternative systems so that we are not cut off like that. How many countries can survive? Complete cut off. But thank God for the strength of Russia. They're building, still creating, cut off the most sanctioned country on earth. The armament they created, Europe is almost finishing its stockpile of armaments. They are creating, they are ready. And the truth about it is, historically, the Tsars of Russia were the defenders of the Judeo-Christian tradition. The Tsars of Russia, they had an old aristocracy like the UK. And when the Ottoman Empire was persecuting Christians, Russia says we are going to destroy Ottoman Empire. That is the Islamic Caliphate that ruled the world. Who came to the rescue of the Ottoman Empire? Britain. Britain came and mobilized all Europe and checkmated Russia against destroying Islam. And where are we? Don't mind pretentious countries that are occultic countries claiming to be the Christian countries. Forget it. They will come for you. They hate what you believe. Europe hates Christ, not the people, the leaders of Europe, the fraternities of Europe. We are responsible for sending communism to Russia to kill the spirit of the Lord in those countries. Demo Shakarin that we know of, his grandfather were influenced by Pentecostals from Russia, who, before Azusa of 1905, Pentecostals were in Russia in the 18-something, ministering across that region. Read the happiest people on the earth, you'll find facts about that. They migrated to the United States by prophecy. But the Lord said, at the end of that era, something worse than took place in Armenia. In Armenia, 1.5 million Christians were slaughtered by the Turks, by the Islamists. Something worse than befell Armenia will befall that country. But I will show you the next plan. The Lord will always show his people the next plan. But the point I'm making is this: the age is building to a close. One language and one speech. Now look at Daniel chapter 3. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold. An image is going to be set up in the whole world. Not a physical image. We are going to submit to one system. I got to know that the social laws of Europe are as inspired by the Vatican. So, who is the woman, the harlot woman that rides the scarlet-colored beast? The beast is a mere political system. But who rides that beast? The woman. And when I saw the facts that the social laws of Europe are as dictated from Vatican, I understood more properly the woman that rides the beast. So the beast, the political system you see, brethren, see a political system that looks novel, looks nice. Oh, America, it looks nice. America is an occultic temple. Everything about its power symbol is rooted in occult. From its money to the Pentagon, to Washington, D.C., to the Capitol, all veneration to ISIS, to the Zeus and Isis and the Egyptian goddess and goddesses. The only symbol that had any righteousness in the United Nations was donated from Russia. A muscular man trying to change the sword into plowshare, and then they quoted Isaiah, that men shall beat their weapons of war into plowshares. That's the donation of Russia to the UN. Isaiah. But check other symbols, all occultic symbols. That's the world that we are in. The point I'm making is this. Here, because we are trying to get to a conclusion. In Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, and the judges, and the treasurers, and the counselors, and the sheriffs, and all rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors, and the captains, and the judges, and the treasurers, and the counselors, and the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried aloud. There's an herald crying out to the whole world. Nigeria is in a hurry, cashless. Everybody. In America right now, you cannot use physical dollar to enter the national parks of America. cashless. I do a lot of some consultancy, some involvement with the UN system. They never pay us cash anymore. The last 2 years, just one card. Whatever when you get there, you travel cashless. US is implementing it. Can never get any cash, just cashless. It's the system that is going on all over the world. It's not for anything. Satan is setting up his kingdom to control. When you see this, things are building up to this crescendo, then understand the time you are in. It's a time to press on towards the mark of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus.